Welcome to the town that loves manga. Today I travelled to the seaport of Ishinomaki to find a town that celebrates manga, has recovered from the devastating 2011 tsunami, and has a marine heritage that stretches back centuries. This town celebrates the work of Shotaro Ishinomori. He's known as the King of Manga. Ishinomori is regarded as one of the greatest and most influential manga artists of all time. And he was also one of the most prolific creators in the world of anime. He created such long-running series as Cyborg 009 and Super Sentai, which was later adapted into the series of Power Rangers. And this town celebrates all of that, celebrates his success with life-size statues of characters that he's created. And right from the get-go, as soon as you arrive at the train station, there's statues of some of his characters. Is this the coolest railway station ever? Not only that, but there's a museum dedicated to his works. I'll be visiting there today as I explore the small coastal city of Ishinomaki. So as you walk around, there are all these manga characters just dotted around, statues on buildings. I think it's amazing. I think it's really cool the way the city's just totally embraced this art. That's cool. We've got one of his characters sketching the museum across the river. Can't say I know much about manga, but this behind me is a museum dedicated to Shotaro Ishinomori. So I'm guessing this was his hometown and he's their favourite son. This is really cool. Okay, it says here, I'm reading, that he's known as the King of Manga. He's got a Guinness World Record for being the author of 770 titles in 500 volumes, the most by any single author. And his artwork is fun and wacky and space related, so why wouldn't the museum be in the shape of a spaceship? I couldn't take videos inside the museum, but here are some photos. Well, that was a lot of fun actually. I don't know anything about any of these characters, any of this stuff, but it looks like a lot of fun, and it was. They're really cool characters. I might just get into manga now. Now, Ishinomaki is a pretty small city, so the best way to see it is on bicycle. And thankfully, my hotel lets you borrow bicycles. There is a tourist information centre here. They don't speak English, but that's okay. Just use your Google Translate and they're actually really friendly and really helpful. They'll give you a map and help you to get where you need to go. What I like about Ishinomaki is it's a very small city. It's very quiet, but it has a real charm to it. Ishinomaki was one of the hardest hit areas during the 2011 tsunami. More than 3,400 people were killed or missing, and nearly 57,000 of the city's homes were damaged or destroyed. Ishinomaki is on a low-lying, flat part of the country, right next to the sea. So when the tsunami hit following an earthquake in 2011, it caused such devastation here. Right behind me is what's left of the old elementary school. This is so sobering. That building would have been filled with hundreds of children. There's still even books on the shelves. And the grounds on either side, sorry, it's really hard. The grounds on either side of the school where kids used to play is now cemeteries with thousands of shrines and graves. But it wasn't just the tsunami that caused such destruction. There was the earthquake, which was a huge earthquake. And then all the rubbish that was brought inland by the tsunami created fires. And so a lot of the school was damaged by fire. There is a museum attached to the old school, which shows you some of the devastation and what happened here during the earthquake and the tsunami. There's no videoing inside, so I can't show you that. I can take photos. But the director of the museum has agreed to talk to me. So Richard, you were actually here at the time of the earthquake and tsunami.
Yeah, I was here. I originally came here over 30 years ago as a university lecturer. So I was on the campus when the earthquake struck.
And how was that experience for you and everyone else?
It was pretty terrifying just because, I mean, of course, you're aware that Japan has so many earthquakes all the time. So it's not the first time I'd experienced one, but it was by far the biggest, the worst I'd ever experienced. So I was in my study and the shaking was so bad, all my books flew off the shelves and fell on the floor. I had to clutch my desk to just stay standing. So we knew it was bad. And then just the earthquake was bad, but then an hour later the tsunami came. And the whole warning system around the city was working very well. There were speakers blaring warnings for people to evacuate. But then no one really expected the size of the tsunami that would come and just completely devastate the city as a whole, really. We're closest to the epicenter of the quake here. And Ishinomaki itself has a really long coastline, which is obviously, it's the coastline that's really badly damaged. And not only that, we have two rivers flowing through the city. And tsunamis, they flow up the river and then overflow from the riverbanks as well. So the fact we have these two rivers increase the amount of the flooded area. Where we are now, we're pretty close to the ocean. So the tsunami here washed away most of the buildings here and just with nothing left. You know, I made my way through the damaged city afterwards. And it was just like a typical, everyone always uses the same example, but just like a nuclear apocalypse movie set, basically. Everywhere covered in mud, cars upside down, crashed into buildings, stuck in the window of a second floor building. It was just, it was really bad.
And in terms of this school, I was looking at it and was getting quite upset thinking of the children in there, but you tell me it's actually a happier story than that.
So the building is in a really bad situation, but in Ishinomaki, the tsunami came 1 hour after the quake. So even before the tsunami came, the children had already been evacuated to the hill behind the school, so they all survived.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
And how has the city coped since?
Well, I mean, as you know, it's been, 14 years now since
Yes.
the disaster, so there's been a lot of time to rebuild.
Yes.
So, I mean, it really has got back on its feet again. If you come and see with your own eyes, it's just completely different to just seeing it on TV or something like that. So I'm always recommending people to come and see, especially if they come to where I am, because I can speak English. So. But it's worth a visit, partly because it's not like Kyoto. It doesn't have all the big cultural heritage sites, but it's just a really typical city, and also one that has gone through the disaster, so you get to see that aspect of it as well. So I think it's definitely worth a visit myself, and people are really friendly here too.
Yes, I'm noticing that. Richard, thanks so much for talking. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. This city's resilience is seen in the Gambaro sign. Erected on the destruction, it reads, "Ishinomaki, we can do it." And it's become a catch cry for this beautiful city. There's a beautiful shrine and park which overlooks Ishinomaki, so I'm going to wander up there and get a beautiful view of the city. Only trouble is, there's something like 200 steps to get up there. Not a fan of steps. But I guess after the effort, I'll appreciate the view even more. Konnichiwa. Good on him. Doing his exercise for the day. Oh my goodness. This building behind me is the Kankaimaru Shoten. This building was Ishinomaki's very first department store. Notice it's got Spanish tiling at the top. That's not by coincidence. There is actually a Spanish influence in this city. Just out of town, there's an old Spanish galleon, and that was commissioned to set sail to Europe from here in the early 17th century as part of a trade journey and establishing trade routes between Europe, particularly Spain, and Ishinomaki. There's actually been a connection between this part of the Japanese coast and Europe since the very early 1600s. So I've come to the Miyagi San Juan Batista Museum to learn about that. In 1613, samurai Hasakura Tsunanaga sailed across the Pacific through the Americas and arrived in Spain on a diplomatic mission. He travelled on to Rome and was granted an audience with the Pope, but his mission occurred at a time when Japan was suppressing Christianity, and so the trade agreements he was seeking were refused. He returned to Japan in 1620 and died of illness a year later. Tsunanaga sailed on a ship made locally in Ishinomaki in the early 1600s. The museum did have a life-size replica of that ship, but it was destroyed in the tsunami. Nowadays, they have a quarter-size replica. This is a scale model. Either that or they had very small people in those days. It's a fascinating part of history. I had no idea that ships were sailing between the east coast of Japan and Europe way back from the 1600s. Behind me it shows the real size of the hull of the ship. It was 5.5 meters tall. That was the real size. This one's tiny in comparison. And this is a replica of the size of the real masts. There's also a marker up there showing where the waterline was during the 2011 tsunami. It was 8 meters above sea level right here. I must say the cherry blossoms here at the museum is something to behold. I like Ishinomaki. It's an interesting little city. It's got some stories here. It's got the tragedy of the tsunami, but it's also got the quirky fun of manga in the streets. It's off the beaten path. Not many people come here, but it's only a 1-hour train ride from Sendai, so it's actually not all that hard to get here. And I do recommend come for a visit for a couple of days. Hey, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. This behind me is a museum dedicated to Shotaro Ishinomori. Oh, I forgot the name, damn. Wait, I'll look it up. This building behind me is the Kankai... Oh, Fritz, I forgot. This building behind me is the Kankaru Martin... Oh, I still forgot. This building behind me is the Kankaru... Oh, far out, Terry. I've got no brain, had no coffee. You can tell.